Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. Apologies that I was a little bit late there. YouTube's got this whole sort of new live stream thingy-majiggy going on. It's a new sort of way of doing it, a new look to it, so I was just trying to get my head around that for 5 minutes because proper confusion, I'll tell you that. So I do apologise for being about 5 minutes late. Should be an interesting stream today. We're going to be talking about transfers, transfer rumours, transfer news. A lot of them are just rumours, of course, because like you said, at this time of the year, you do tend to get sort of just players thrown in the bucket and teams thrown in the bucket, and it is really just a guessing game at the minute. Obviously, we know Marco Silva and Marcel Brands are interested in a striker. Obviously, we know Marcel Brands and Marco Silva know we need to improve this squad in order to be able to challenge for either that top 6 or maybe even that top 4 next season. We've seen obviously the Europa League final last night between two sides that for me are quite average, and you know, if we do our business right in the summer, there's no reason as to why we can't challenge those sides. But we're going to talk about some transfer rumours today, one in particular being Memphis Depay. He's a player that's been rumoured to be, you know, Everton be interested in him for a few months now, even before the season ended. Marcel Brands apparently travelling to Lyon to watch him play, to scout him, as well as a couple of other Lyon players. So it'll be a really interesting one to talk about. Obviously, he's played in the Premier League before for Manchester United. Obviously, he's got that experience. I'm going to give my opinion on whether I personally like the player, whether I personally would like him at Everton. There's a couple of others I want to talk about as well. David Neres is one of them, the winger for PSG, of course, plays on the right-hand side. Going to talk about how good of a player he is, the relationship he seems to have with Richarlison over in the Brazilian national team camp, and whether bringing him in would actually affect Richarlison's place in the Everton lineup. And we're going to talk about Danny Welbeck as well. He's one that popped up sort of earlier on this week while I was streaming on Tuesday night. A couple of people asked me about Danny Welbeck and I just sort of dismissed it as a, you know, we're not going to sign Danny Welbeck. I don't think we're interested in Danny Welbeck, but I want to talk a little bit more about it because I still don't think we will sign Danny Welbeck, and I really don't think we should sign Danny Welbeck. But I think the reason as to why you're getting all of these strikers, aka your Welbecks, your Mitrovic's linked with Everton Football Club, is probably because Marcel Brands is interested in a load of different strikers. Probably because Marco Silva and Marcel Brands have got a massive list and they're sitting down and looking at these players. Doesn't mean that we're going to put a bid in, doesn't mean that we're interested in making a move for them. Just because we're interested in having a look at them and see how well they'd work in our setup doesn't mean that we're going to sign them. Just going to jump into the live comments. Samuel says hello again. Hello Samuel, I hope you are doing well. Jonathan says hello to you as well, Jonathan, I hope you are doing well. Terry says hey Terry, I hope you are doing well, mate. Jamie says yes mate, yes Jamie. And Jonathan says hello mate, I assume that is to Jamie. I'm just going to tweet the stream out before we get into it so everybody on Twitter knows we are live. Really confusing, this whole sort of new YouTube layout sort of thingy-majiggy. It cocked up at first, so that's why I was a little bit late. I was trying to get my head round it. I didn't want to press the stream button and it not say I was streaming and me sitting here absolutely having a go at YouTube while I'm live and everyone's laughing at me. So do apologise about that one. Hopefully, you know, you'd only make that mistake once and every other team should run smoothly from here on out. Let me know what you guys are doing as well. What do you think of the Europa League final last night? A little bit off topic, obviously not about Everton, but be interesting to talk about. Jamie says he's a player that brings a lot of publicity. Economically, he will be a huge asset to Everton Football Club with shirt sales, etc. And that is something I want to talk about today. Not just the player's ability, not just what he brings to our squad, not just what he brings to the setup at Everton Football Club, but the commercial value as well. And that's something we really seen last season with Wayne Rooney. Obviously, Wayne Rooney coming to Everton Football Club, and we all knew that, yes, you know, he could give us a little something. Yes, he could have his moments, like the West Ham game, like the, you know, the goal he scored from the halfway line. But we all knew that the real reason for bringing Wayne Rooney in was for the commercial value, was for the fact that he was going to bring in fans, he was going to bring in shirt sales, and obviously the nostalgic, you know, factor of him being an Evertonian and coming back to his home club as well. Memphis Depay would definitely bring some of that, definitely bring economic value, definitely bring monetary value as well to the football club. Do I think he'd fit into Everton Football Club? I'm not too sure. Like I said, we'll discuss it in a little bit. Do I think he'd get in our side at the minute? Again, I'm not too sure. If you are enjoying the stream so far, please do leave a like, by the way. It really does mean a massive amount to me. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe as well. It literally takes a second and it really does help me out if you haven't already. Jonathan says we need to get Gomez first. Sosa possibly coming next week. Yeah, I think with Andre Gomez and Kurt Zouma, obviously we see the Chelsea side go out and dominate Arsenal last night, and a Chelsea side that looked quite assured defensively, and a side that looked like they wouldn't necessarily miss a Kurt Zouma if he was to leave in the summer. That's not to say that Maurizio Sarri doesn't want Kurt Zouma to stay at the club. That's not to say that Maurizio Sarri doesn't believe Kurt Zouma has a place in this Chelsea setup. It's just to say that they seem pretty assured against a strike force that are meant to be one of the greatest in the Premier League. But Kurt Zouma and Andre Gomez, I think these are transfers that are going to go on for another couple of weeks. Ideally, realistically, look, we'd want to be sitting here by now and not even talking about Gomez, not even talking about Zouma. We'd want to be sitting here going, you know what? Those players have been boxed off. We've signed them first couple of weeks of the transfer window, done and dusted. They go on the shelf now, and we look forward to next season. We've got our squad that ended the season, starting obviously the first game of the season next season. Let's go and improve it now. Let's bring in a striker. Let's bring in a couple of additions. But that's not the way in football, and that's not the way with Everton Football Club either. I think we're still going to be sitting here in a couple of weeks' time. Talking about Kurt Zouma, talking about Andre Gomez, the possibility of these two players signing for Everton. Listen, I'd absolutely love Andre Gomez to become an Everton player. I'd absolutely love to see him playing in that royal blue shirt next season. I'd absolutely love Kurt Zouma as well to be an Everton player. But these are transfers that are going to be strung along. You're going to have Chelsea stringing us along because they've got a transfer ban that very possibly could start in the summer. They wouldn't be able to replace Kurt Zouma. They've got a defence that, okay, done well last night and okay, have done well at part of the season, but you've got David Luiz falling out with fellow players, you've got Rudiger who's now on crutches injured, and then of course you've got Barcelona on the other hand who are notorious for dragging out transfers, notorious for bringing other clubs into transfer deals to try and up the price of the players. Basically, they've done it with Yerry Mina last season. I remember sitting here last summer and thinking Yerry Mina signed for Manchester United for 30 million. He'd barely had any contact with Manchester United. It's just Barcelona were using that to try and up the bid from Everton and try and up the deal, and that's exactly what happened. They ended up getting £30 million for him from us. Do we think the same will happen with Andre Gomez? I don't know. Obviously there's been rumours that Spurs are interested. Obviously there's been rumours that other clubs are interested. West Ham throwing an £18 million bid in or something, which is laughable because I don't know why you'd ever want to go to them. But again, it shows that there's other clubs interested. It shows that there's other teams interested in the player because of his quality and the quality that he brings to any Premier League side. So I think it is going to be a case of waiting a couple of weeks for them transfers if they are done. I fully expect Marcel Brands to turn around if it gets a little bit ridiculous and if Barcelona start requesting ridiculous amounts of money and say, listen, we're not willing to pay that much money. We can get him for better. Exactly the same situation with Kurt Zouma as well. Jamie says there's an issue with this deal. Lyon have achieved Champions League football, whereas Everton have nothing to show for. Spot on, mate, spot on, and that's something that I dare say Memphis Depay will be thinking about. Jonathan says, Jamie, they might come to try and help us get there. Who knows? And Jamie also says, don't know, mate, to be fair, I think Memphis has bigger ambitions than no European football. Manchester United do have first preference, by the way. Exactly. And just on that, I don't think Manchester United would go for a player like Memphis. I think Manchester United, if I'm being perfectly honest, are in turmoil at the minute, and I think they need to rebuild from the bottom and they need to rebuild from the back in terms of defensively and obviously goalkeeper position as well if David De Gea decides to leave the club. But again, spot on about Memphis Depay. Is he realistically... Does he strike me as the type of player that's going to go, you know what, I'm going to put myself second here. I want to be playing back in the Premier League, so I'm going to go to a club that's fighting for Champions League football, fighting for this ambition. No, he doesn't strike me as that sort of player at all. We'll go into talking about Memphis Depay now because the video's titled about him and we may as well speak about him first. Listen, as much as I think he's got a lot of talent, as much as I think he's got a lot of ability when he wants it, I think his attitude is poor, and I think, like we just mentioned there, I think he's a very, very selfish player. I think he's very, very about himself. If you look at his social media over the last few months, I mean, not to judge a player by his social media, but I think he done a rap video for his 1 million follower special. He just doesn't strike me as the type of player that would come into a football club like Everton, a team that are currently building to something special, a team that are currently aiming for Europa League football, for Champions League football, and improve us. He strikes me as the type of player that would come to a club like Everton, spit his dummy if he wasn't, performing every week, spit his dummy if the fans got on his back a little bit, and then end up sitting on the bench getting stupid amounts of money because he'd have to come in on stupid amounts of money, and it would be one of those transfers where we're saying goodbye within 6 to 12 months. A little bit like the Samuel Eto'o, if you like, only he'd be on a lot more money and he'd cost us quite a big transfer fee as well. There's no doubt in the fact that he'd come in and he'd sell loads of shirts. There's no doubt in the fact that he'd come in and I think he would improve our squad in terms of ability and on paper and technically wise, but does he have the correct attitude to fit in to Everton Football Club at the minute? Listen, if we were in the Europa League, if we were challenging for the top 4 and you're thinking we just need that extra little bit of class, we just need that extra, little something to take us over that next step, then maybe you could look at Memphis Depay and go, okay, you're going to come in and you're going to provide us with that extra something. But I even don't think we're there yet. I think we can be there next season, but we need players in this squad that are willing to just get their heads down, work hard, and have got that quality. And another thing about Memphis Depay is I don't think he necessarily fits into Marcel Brands or Marco Silva's structure of bringing in a footballer to Everton Football Club. I think what we're going to be looking at this season, much like last season, is players that are going to come in, get their head down, work hard, and have got the quality to be able to take us to the next level. There's no doubt Memphis Depay's got that quality, but we've seen him in the Premier League before and he didn't light it up then, and he had attitude problems then. He was at the biggest club in world football at that time, in my opinion, and he still had attitude issues and he still wasn't a fan favourite because he didn't perform on the pitch and he didn't live up to his expectation. And listen, a player can have a bad game and that's fair enough, a player can have a bad run of form and that's fair enough, but when you're walking around acting like you're the dog's bollocks and you're not performing, especially with Everton Football Club, we're all sitting here, Everton fans, we're all sitting here week in, week out, talking about Everton Football Club. We know how hostile our fan base can be at times. We know that if a footballer doesn't have, has a couple of games where, he doesn't necessarily play really, really well in an Everton shirt, but he's going out and he's posting pictures every single week, you're going to get on his back. Look at a load of the fans with Tom Davis. Tom Davis wasn't even playing that poorly, but because he was posting pictures of himself in, mad clothing, because that's the type of character he is, fans were deciding, I don't like that. That's not what we want for our football club. And I just don't think Memphis would fit in at our football club. I don't think he'd fit in our setup. And as he got unbelievable amounts of quality and talent to the point where you go, okay, let's just disregard the fact that, fans might get on his back, let's disregard the fact that he mightn't be the right player at the right time. He's got enough quality to be able to take us to that next level. I don't know, and that's why for me, I'd stay away from this transfer, not to mention the fact that he's going to want upwards of 200 grand a week, probably to sign for Everton Football Club. Lyon are going to want a massive, massive transfer fee for him due to the fact that they're in European football now and he's one of their key players. And the fact that, if Memphis Depay comes into Everton Football Club, you've got a front three there. Now listen, you've got Bernard and Richarlison, who you could argue should be starting week in, week out next year. You've got Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who you could say, okay, he needs replacing. We need to bring in another striker that can provide us with more goals and that can be more of an asset going into next season, scoring us the 15, 20 goals that we're all sitting here saying we need. Memphis Depay could play up front as a striker. Is that his natural position? Probably not. Realistically, in terms of his attitude, in terms of his ability, would you see him coming in and taking Richarlison's space? I don't know. Bernard's space? I don't know. Let me know. But for me personally, I just think there's too many negatives that outweigh the positives for this transfer, and I wouldn't personally go towards it. And I also don't think Marcel Brands will go towards it as well, despite the Netherlands connection, despite the fact that he's probably watched them play, probably scouted them. He's probably had one look at Memphis Depay and gone, right, okay, he's got the quality, he's got the talent. Is he the type of player to fit in to our football club? What we've got to remember is one of the biggest successes of last season, one of the things that I think the majority of us sat back and applauded Marcel Brands and Marco Silva for last season was not only the quality of player he brought in. Yes, we're looking at Luca Dean, who's absolutely unbelievable. Yes, we're looking at Andre Gomez, who's come in and been fantastic. Kurt Zoom, who's come in and been fantastic. Yerry Mina, who maybe hasn't hit the ground running, but he's been decent when he's played. Richarlison, who's been fantastic. Not only the quality of the player and the talent that these players possess, but also the characters that he's brought in. That's one of the biggest things, that if you sat down with an Everton player that has been here prior to Marco Silva, if you sat down with a Seamus Coleman, if you sat down with a Phil Jagielka and you said, okay, we brought in 6 players last summer, what was the best thing about bringing those players in? Other than the fact that they're madly talented and they're really, really good and they've improved our squad, what was the best thing? The characters are unbelievable. Luca Dean, down to earth lad, always wants to improve, getting his head down and saying, right, we're going to be better. Yerry Mina, he's a character. Bernard is a character. Richarlison is a character. We're bringing in players that are good mentally for the rest of the team, a good positive energy and bring positive vibes to the dressing room. And I know you could argue the other point where, well, look at Chelsea, they've just won a European competition, they've just won the Europa League and they're fighting and training every week yet, but we're not at that level yet. We don't have that quality of player, and I want Everton Football Club, I want Marco Silva and Marcel Brands to build a unity here. We've got that unity now. It feels like we've got that unity between the players and the fans with the introduction of the side, and with the atmosphere being fantastic in the last few games of the season. We need to keep that. Now, what we don't want realistically, and what we need to be careful of, is bringing in a player in the summer that's going to poison that atmosphere in the dressing room, and that's going to be a real negative impact on the rest of the players. And I just fear that Memphis Depay would be that. Let's start back into the live comments now. Where are we? Jamie says he's a player that drops his head and hides when nothing has gone right for the team. Trust me, I watched him for 2 seasons at United, so frustrating. He was fantastic with the link-up play with Luke Shaw. Then once Shaw got injured, he turned pure shite, man. I agree. Jonathan says, how old is Depay? Jamie says 25, around that, Jonathan. I'm not too sure. I'd say he's mid-20s. Jonathan says, feels like he's been around for ages. And Jamie says he joined Man United when he was 21, I think. And Jonathan says, I'd rather have Neves. Yeah, he joined Manchester United when he was quite young, so he's probably in his mid-20s now. So again, yes, you could argue in terms of his age, he's at the prime of his career, but for me, attitude-wise, I'd just stay away. But brilliant point Jonathan talks about there. We'll go straight into David Neres now. Jonathan says, I'd rather have David Neres. Me, personally, I would also rather have David Neres. I think the lad possesses an... Bloody hell. It's hard to say immense, then I nearly choked on my words. I think the lad possesses an immense amount of talent. I think he's got a lot of potential, and I think he's got the head and the confidence to want to improve for Everton Football Club. I think if we bring in a Memphis Depay, he's going to instantly know from day one that he is Billy Big Bollocks. He is the star of the show. He is the main attraction. He is, the lad that's going to sell his shirts. He is the lad that the fans want to see, and he's going to let that get to his head, and his ego is going to go massive. If we bring in a David Neres, he's going to know that he's playing next to a Brazilian teammate in Richarlison. He's playing next to a Brazilian player in Bernard, of course, who's been in and around that Brazilian setup for a number of years now. He's playing for Marcel Brands, of course, who is obviously being quite close to him with the Dutch connections, and he's a player that like I said, still very, very young, very, very good, very, 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 very talented, but wanting to improve and, needing to improve in many, many ways as well. Part of a really, really good Ajax side, but a side that are naive at times and are, maybe just a little bit inexperienced. If we bring David Neres in, I fully expect him to get his head down and work his bollocks off for this team and not come in with the ego boost that I'm the biggest player in this team, I'm the best player in this team, the fans all want to come and see me. I don't expect that from him. I'd expect that from a Memphis Depay. I wouldn't expect that from a David Neres. Now, I wanted to bring David Neres up as well because Richarlison has posted a couple of social media pictures this week, one specifically with Neres, having a little bit of a laugh and a joke, and one obviously with Neres and Neymar as well. Now, I'm not even going to go into Neymar because I don't think we've got any chance of signing him, but obviously David Neres was part of that picture. Now, look, this is the height of speculation. This is the height of looking at an image and going, how much can I get out of this image? But as soon as every other journalist and every other newspaper is doing it with players, we may as well do it as well. Obviously, there's very little in Richarlison and David Neres having a laugh and it getting captured and put on Richarlison's Instagram. There's very, very little in Richarlison and David Neres having a little bit of a joke and Richarlison putting it up with a smiley face, other than the fact that he's saying, yeah, I've got a boss mate here who plays in the Brazilian national team, who's the same age as me, who's really, really talented, and we get along because we're both new to the setup, we're both learning the setup, and we're both developing together. They've probably played in the youth setup as well previously. Realistically, there's nothing much more in that than there's a couple of lads there that play in the same national team that, are enjoying themselves and have played in the team from a young level. Now, as much as the positive and optimistic Evertonian wants me to sit here and go, he's putting a good word in there, Richarlison's throwing a good word in there, he's throwing why didn't you just come to Everton, lad? We're improving massively, we're going to be challenging the top 6 in the next couple of years, trust me, we're going forward, why don't you come to Everton Football Club? It's a massive place to improve, and listen, there's not going to be any pressure on you. You're going to be coming into a side with fans that are going to love you, appreciate your quality, appreciate your ability, and you're going to be able to settle in. As much as me wants to sit down and say that's happening and Richarlison's having those conversations, Richarlison mightn't have mentioned Everton once to David Neres. Richarlison mightn't be talking about Everton. He might be talking about how boss his dancers are and how boss it is to be in the Brazilian national team. Richarlison might have gone up to David Neres and said, listen, I know you're looking for a move in the summer, why don't you sign for Everton, why don't you come and join me? And David Neres might have gone, cheers mate, appreciate the offer, but I've got Chelsea there, or I've got United there, or I've got Spurs there that are throwing in a cheeky £40 million bid in, and I like the look of that, so thanks but no thanks, I'm going to go there. And that's they're the stories that you can get out of these images, and that's why I didn't want to jump too much into them. That is the only real piece of information we've got on David Neres at the minute. Obviously, he's spoken in interviews before, and he said how, he'd love to play in the Premier League, but again, I feel like that's just standard. That's what every single player, pretty much says. You've seen Eden Hazard say there that he's playing in the best league in the world yesterday. You've seen Giroud say within 5 minutes, 2 interviews after the Europa League final, both players saying they're playing in the best league in the world. So I don't think it's unusual for a player like David Neres to come out and say, I want to play in the Premier League. Is that saying I want to play for Everton? No, absolutely not. There's 6-7 teams that finished above us this season that could very realistically be in with a shot of signing David Neres. Yes, okay, we've got that connection with Marcel Brands in the Dutch league. Yes, of course, we've got that connection with Bernard and Richarlison in the Brazilian national setup. But is there anything much more in that than just a picture of two lads having a laugh? I don't know. Listen, I really, really do hope we go for David Neres, and I think he's a player that Marcel Brands will be looking at. Like I said, extremely talented, got a lot of potential, part of, a Champions League semi-finalist team, can put the ball in, can score, really, really good goals as well, fantastically talented, and strikes me as the type of player that I'd be happy to come in, get his head down, work his arse off, and understand that he's part of a setup. On the other hand, bringing in the likes of Memphis Depay, he strikes me as the type of player that's going to want to come in, everything feeds through him, and it's an individual. And I don't want an individual, I want a player that's, welcome to the idea of playing as part of a team. And I really, really do think David Neres would be that player. Whether we're going to be interested in him, I don't know. Again, that's down to Marcel Brands. Again, that's something we're going to have to see in the next couple of weeks and months. But one thing I did want to talk about with David Neres, obviously he's been rumoured for the last couple of weeks. Fans have been talking about him as well. I want to know, from everybody as well as I'm going to talk about it myself, is let's say we bring David Neres in. Obviously he's a right winger, right forward attacker. David Neres comes in, we bring a striker in, let's say, and Dom drops out, because we all know that, listen, Dom's been fantastic, but if we bring a striker in that can, play that position at, at a higher level, then realistically Dom probably is going to have to drop out, at least for the time being, whilst he improves off, watching that striker. If we bring a David Neres in, does Richarlison go back to the left? If Richarlison goes back to the left, does Bernard drop out? Does Richarlison drop out? Do we go with a 4-4-2? If so, who drops out the midfield if we also sign Andre Gomez? Again, these are the type of things that you're going to have to look at. And if David Neres comes in and Marco Silva wants to play Richarlison and Bernard, he's going to have to change the formation. And that's probably going to have a massive knock-on effect on the Andre Gomez deal. Will Andre Gomez come in if Marco Silva's looking to change the formation? Because he might just say, well, okay, I'll just put Gylfi and Adesanya Gay next to each other, and we'll play Bernard, Neres, Richarlison up front with either Calvert-Lewin or another striker, depending on, the business that we do in the summer. That's another thing that Marcel Brands and Marco Silva will be sitting down and looking at. They'll probably be sitting down going, yes, David Neres is a really, really good player. Yes, he's fantastically talented. Yes, he'd be brilliant at our football club, but would he fit in around the players that we've got already? And do we necessarily need him? Is David Neres a necessity? That's the question I want to ask all you guys watching in the live comments and watching on a YouTube video afterwards. Is David Neres a necessity to our football club? We know a striker's a necessity. We know a number 9's a necessity. We know a centre back's a necessity. We know a centre midfielder's probably a necessity. Is a right winger? Is David Neres a necessity? I don't know. Let me know in the comment section down below. Of course, if you're not enjoying this team so far, please do leave a like. It really, really does mean a massive, massive amount to me. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. Again, it means an immense amount to me if you haven't already. So close to 500 subscribers now. Where are we? Jonathan says, we need to striker like Callum Wilson, pace and knows where the net is. I agree. I think Callum Wilson's a really, really good player, and I would like to see him at Everton. But for the amount of money that Bournemouth want for him, talking 40, 50 million plus, I just don't think he's worth that amount. Jonathan says, what about Ryan Fraser? Again, another good player. Again, another player that I'd like to see at Everton Football Club. Would Bournemouth sell for a reasonable price? Again, I'm not too sure. Reason says we won't get him. There's going to be bigger clubs in for him. Exactly, and that's going to be a lot of the talk when we're talking about transfer rumours. Whilst a lot of it is paper talk, whilst a lot of it is, like I said in a couple of streams ago, it's basically journalists going into work on a Monday morning, going, "I Karen, make us a coffee," going like that, 3 pots in front of them, bang player, bang club, bang price. Okay, David Neres, Everton, 30 million. Bang a story about that. Put it out. That's the same reasons why you're getting Alexander Mitrovic, Everton, 40 million. Danny Welbeck, Everton, 30 million. Fucking all sorts of madness stories going on. We'll talk about Danny Welbeck in just a second. But like I said, there are going to be top teams in for the likes of David Neres. There's going to be top teams in for the likes of Memphis Depay. There's going to be Premier League sides above us in for these types of players, because they will improve a lot of squads. Again, Have we got a chance of signing David Neres? Of course we have. Not just because we're a Premier League football club that will be challenging for the top six place in the next couple of years, but the connection with Marcel Brands, of course. Have we got an opportunity to sign Memphis Depay? Of course we have. Brands wouldn't have went to scout him if we haven't. Does that mean we're definitely going to sign him? No. Does that mean we're not going to sign him? No. Does that mean there's bigger clubs in for them? Of course it does. Of course you're probably going to have the likes of a Chelsea, a Tottenham in for these players because they're good quality players that are only going to improve at a young age. Certainly David Neres is a young player, bags of talent, bags of ability, and he's only going to improve. So there's going to be teams in a better position than Everton after these players. Whether David Neres turns around and goes, well, I want to go to Everton because I'll have more room to develop, I can get my head down, I can work as part of a team, I can work in a setup run by a man in Marcel Brands that I've worked with before, I've known, I can work under a really, really good manager in Marco Silva. Or is he just going to go, well, I'm an individual, I want to go and play for Chelsea, or I want to go and play for Arsenal? Again, that's completely down to the player, and that's where I think the Memphis Depay deal falls short, because no matter how much we want Memphis Depay, no matter how much Marco Silva and Marcel Brands think he would improve our squad, I think in England and in Europe as well, there's probably going to be a side in a better position, in a better state at the minute than Everton Football Club, and by that I literally just mean in a European competition, that are going to be after Memphis Depay, and he strikes me as the type of selfish player to go, well, I'm going to go there because they've got more for me. Again, anyway, just mentioned him then. Last one I want to talk about today is Danny Welbeck. Danny Welbeck, Arsenal's Danny Welbeck. Travelled to Baku with the Arsenal squad yesterday. Don't think he got on the pitch. Don't think any Arsenal player got on the pitch yesterday, to be honest. He was shite. But obviously in the last couple of weeks there's been rumours flying about that Everton are interested in signing Arsenal's Danny Welbeck. Now, I said on Tuesday's stream about Danny Welbeck, I said I don't want him. I stand clear on this. I don't want Danny Welbeck at Everton Football Club, and I don't want him for a couple of reasons. Got nothing against the lad. Don't necessarily think he's a shocking footballer, but there's a couple of reasons as to why I don't want Danny Welbeck. One of them is I think he's injury prone to shit. I don't think he would give us more than 5 games a season, and for that reason I think it'd be a pointless transfer, especially for the money you're going to have to get him. 3 reasons actually. Second reason is that the same reports that are linking us with Danny Welbeck are linking us with reports that we're willing to double his wages and give him £150,000 a week. Bearing in mind this would be giving a player £150,000 a week that would probably sit out for 7, 8 months of the 10-month season. And thirdly, because I don't think Danny Welbeck's got the quality to improve Everton Football Club massively. I don't think he's got a lot more than Dominic Calvert-Lewin has, to be perfectly honest with you. Listen, if we were sitting here and we were saying Danny Welbeck, when he plays, is a 30 goal a season striker, he's banging them in left, right and centre, and Arsenal have said, well, we've got Lacazette, Aubameyang, we don't want him now, we're trying to sell him on. You could sort of think, well, okay, maybe it might be worth the risk of bringing in that player for the fact that he's got the quality, he's got the ability, and he scores goals when he's fit. Yes, obviously there's the massive risk with injury, but when he's fit, he does the job. But there's not even that for me. I really don't think Danny Welbeck's that good, even when fit. He's getting on now. Obviously he starts his career at Manchester United, a lot of potential. Injuries has ruined his career, no fault of his own, but you've got to be harsh in this business. You've got no room for sentiment and no room. I don't think there's any room for us to go, well, okay, Arsenal don't want him, he's not too bad, so fuck it, come on board, we'll give you the contract, whatever. And I also don't think that's how Marcel Brands works as well. I think Danny Welbeck's another transfer that goes massively against Marcel Brands' ethics. I think if Danny Welbeck signs for Everton, and I hope if Danny Welbeck signs for Everton, although I don't think he will, I hope it's for a second striker. I hope it's a striker that's going to come off the bench if needed. I hope it's not the number 9 that we all know we need, because I really don't think he can be that. Even if he's fit for 38 games a season, I still don't think he's good enough to be that player for us. But again, we'll have to see how that one develops. If you are enjoying the stream, please do leave a like. It really, really does mean a massive amount to me. This whole setup, new YouTube setup thing is a little bit madness. I can see a lot more than I could before, but it's also massively different as well, so I'm still trying to get my head around it. Before we go, that's all the transfer talk out the window. Obviously, let me know what you think out the window, not out the window. Let me know what you think on the Memphis Depay rumours. Let's look at it sort of illogically. Let's say that we are massively linked with Memphis Depay. We're not. It's just a paper article. It's just journalism shit. Let's say that we're massively linked with David Neres. Let's say that we're massively linked with Danny Welbeck. Of course, you could say, well, there's no point talking about Depay because he's not going to come. let's say that he's come out and said, I want to go to Everton. Would you take Memphis Depay? Do you think he'd improve our squad? Or are you a little bit like me? Are you put off by his attitude? Are you put off by the fact that, you know, he's going to come in thinking that he's the big I am and wanting to disrupt, you know, the general feeling around our football club that Marco Silva's worked for an entire year to make? Would you take David Neres? Do you think he'd come in and improve us? If so, who dropped out that squad to make way for David Neres? Because we're going to have to pay a lot of money for him, and there's no way he'd come on the basis that he wasn't starting every week. And would you take Danny Welbeck as well if he was coming in as a secondary option and we were going to sign a better striker as a number 9? Would you take him, or would you just flat out not take him? But anyway, before we enter today's team, I want to talk about the kit briefly, very briefly. Only going to spend a couple of minutes on it. Listen, what I want to say is, obviously, the kits still haven't been announced, they haven't been released, they haven't been leaked, nothing, absolutely nothing, zilch from the club, from Umbro, from anybody, really. You usually get a dodgy pic, like I said, from 300 mile away where you can see it a little bit, you know, 140p resolution thrown on Twitter, and you go, right, okay, that's the kit. But we haven't had anything. Now, in the last couple of days since we last streamed, Bournemouth, I think, have released their kit, definitely their goalkeeper kit. I think they've even released their home kit as well. West Ham's home and away kit have been leaked, and actually the away kit's been officially announced today as well. Now, I just want to say, obviously, going off the conversation that we had about Umbro a couple of months ago, it's likely that our kit will probably look similar to West Ham's kits, probably look similar to Bournemouth kits. Now, I really like West Ham's home kit. It's obviously blue and claret, or claret and blue, whatever you want to call it. And it's got stripes across the front here, and then it's got just claret down below, and it looks quite smart. Apparently, according to some West Ham fans, it's a throwback to one of their kits in the 70s. So again, maybe that's unlikely to you know, take shape as an Everton kit, because obviously we had different kits to them in the 70s, and Bournemouth kits as well. You know, the goalkeeper kit, it looks alright. What the point I'm trying to make here is, although we could sit here and say, well, our kits might look like those kits, what I want to sort of emphasise is Umbro have now announced Bournemouth kit, they now have announced West Ham kits. Two of the Premier League clubs that obviously they sponsor. I wouldn't be surprised if ours follows in the next couple of days or couple of weeks. Now, I know there's an issue with stock. I know there's an issue with obviously getting the demand for the kit so that they have enough in stock to be able to provide to fans on pre-orders and sales and stuff like that. But obviously, I dare say they'll have had that issue with other clubs as well. They've now released Bournemouth's kit, they've released West Ham's away kit, and West Ham's home kit has been leaked as well. So I dare say, and don't hold me to this isn't a promise, I don't know anything more than you do, I've got no inside information, I don't know anything from inside the club, but if I was to hence a bet, it will be that the kit will be at least leaked within the next couple of days or weeks, because like I said, you know, the kits of the clubs that are sponsored by Umbro in the Premier League have been either leaked or released as well over the last couple of days. So a little bit of exciting news, a little bit of positive news there. Hopefully that is the case, but I suppose we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, that is going to do it for today's live stream. If you have enjoyed, please do leave a like. Like I said, leave in the comment section below your thoughts on everything that we've spoken about today, and don't forget to join us at 6:15 tomorrow as well. We'll be continuing our season review. We'll be talking about what Marco Silva and Marcel Brands need to do going into next season, in my opinion. A massive thank you for everybody for watching. If you've watched live, if you haven't already, please do give the stream a like. It really does mean a massive amount to me. And if you haven't already, like I said, please do subscribe. We're so close to 500 subscribers now, and it'd mean a massive amount to me if you could hit that subscribe button. Like I said, we'll be back tomorrow at 6:15 for another live stream, so don't forget to join us for that one. Leave all your comments on everything that we spoke about in the comments section down below. Once again, thank you very much for joining, and I'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.